Hi there. This is Minecraft Online, running on 1.21.1, with a total of about 80 mods, distant horizons, and shaders, all maxed out in their settings. Currently, it is running at 1080p at a pretty steady, if not completely stable, 60 FPS. This is already far more performant than my 1.12 setup that I currently run. So your first question might be, how am I doing this? Well, there is a mod called Via Fabric, which lets you run modern versions on any single version in the game's history. And the other question might be, why have I done this? Well, aside from the jaw-dropping nature of Distant Horizons and how badly I've wanted to experience it on the server for quite a long time now, MCO in the near future will be updating to 1.21.1. Now, the last time we updated was a couple years ago, and the 1.12.2 update was kind of a surprise to a lot of people who wasn't even sure if it was happening. It was kind of this big process to carry over all of our modded clients to get ready for what was essentially a brand new version of the server that a lot of us weren't quite ready for. The purpose of this video is to walk you through the mod list I have created for the server. By no means do you need to run every single one of these mods, or even any of them, to experience MCO and have fun here. But it is in my opinion that they enhance the experience, and honestly in ways I've never expected. 1.12.2 and before that 1.7 was before the big split of Minecraft mod loaders. So we were all using Forge, and we were all using mods that had come out quite a long time ago. But after Fabric came out, and after Minecraft had its big resurgence, the modding community has been capable of some truly impressive things. And upgrading to 1.21.1, not only does Minecraft run and look far better than it ever has, it's far more stable, and there's so much more we can do with it now. And that's kind of what this video is all about. I'm going to go through all of these mods I have set up and tell you how to get them working, what you need to change as far as settings to make them work or be server rule friendly, and I'm even going to give you access to my Distant Horizons world data, so you'll be able to get started on seeing the far lands out beyond the normal render distance of the server, and also Zero's world map data, so when you open your minimap or your world map, you'll be able to see the entire server. Well, I don't have the entire server loaded in to Distant Horizons just yet. I have pretty much gone through all of Vizurva, as well as multiple cities and a large chunk of spawn. My hope is that through collaboration, or through somebody insane enough, eventually we'll be able to have the entire server loaded in with Distant Horizons. So you can, no matter where you fly, you can see every piece of the server. Currently, the mod only saves data from chunks you have been in, but that's the nice thing about being able to share that data. We can contribute to a bigger pool of files, and I'm hoping in time people will donate their Distant Horizons data so we can work on filling out the map together. So sit down, get ready, because this is probably going to be a long one. So, like I said, 80 mods. So you're probably thinking 80 mods is quite a lot of mods. Even on 1.12, I was only running about 30 total. Now, the good news is, these mods, despite being a big scary number, they run extremely well together from my experience. And on the other hand, about a quarter of them are just dependency mods that others rely upon, and about another quarter of them are all about increasing Minecraft's performance. However, before we get into the mods themselves, there are a few things you probably want to download. First, go to fabricmc.net, all these will be linked in the description, and you're going to want to download Fabric for 1.21.1. This is the mod loader we're going to be using, and all of these mods are designed for it. Next, you're going to want to go get Via Fabric Plus. This is the mod that allows you to play on other versions despite using a newer one. In order to use this, you'll see a button in the top right of your multiplayer menu. Click on that, and the easiest solution is to click Auto Detect, so it'll pick whatever version your server is currently running on that you are trying to join. Next up, this is completely optional, but Iris Shaders is the platform that shaders run on for this version. There's a lot of different shaders that are compatible with Distant Horizons. Personally, I'm using Complementary, which is probably one of the more popular ones, but I was so taken aback by how beautiful it actually is that it's the one I'm choosing to run with. Previously, we used shaders via Optifine, and spoiler alert, this list does not include Optifine. For a lot of reasons I'm not going to get into, we are just going to be using other mods that are far better, and there are many mods that replace functionality that we will be losing by leaving Optifine behind. Unfortunately, it's just one of those things that as time's gone on, Optifine has kind of fallen out of favor, and there just are better things to use. Next, you're going to want to pick up the mod menu. This is a little mod that will let you customize all of the mod settings in-game. It is essential and a must-have. And then lastly, you're going to want to go pick up Distant Horizons. If you do not have a decent PC, this might not be something that can run on your system, but I think it is at least worth a shot, especially given how much more optimized it has become in the recent years. When installing Distant Horizons, there's a lot of settings you can customize, but one very important thing is you need to make sure your game's render distance is set to 4. It does mean the pop-in and the fade between actual chunks and fake chunks is going to be a little bit close, but without it on the server, there will be a gap in the terrain, as the server's render distance is currently limited to 4 chunks, and you need to match your games to that, or it will be rendering those chunks past the servers. Now we're going to move into the core mods. These are either the core or dependency mods that other ones rely upon. There's quite a bit of them, so we're just going to rapid fire through these since they don't do much on their own. Architecture, Cicada, Cloth Config API, Color Util, Creative Core, Entity Model Features, Entity Texture Features, Fabric API, Fabric Language Kotlin, Forge Config API Port, iChun Util, libIPN, MaliLib, MRU, OWOLib, Placeholder API, and lastly, yet another config lib. Yeah, there's quite a few of these. Now we're going to move into the performance mods. Once again, I'm just going to go through these because most of them are pretty basic or do really technical things, but at the end of the day, they all just do things that make your game run a lot better. First off, we have Better Beds, which replaces beds that usually render as entities with blocks, making them a lot more performant. Then we have Dynamic FPS, Entity Culling, Ferrite Core, Immediately Fast, Lithium, Modern Fix, More Culling, Noisium, Scalable Lux, Sodium, and Sodium Extra. Now we're going to start getting into the actual fun mods. This section is all about graphical and audio mods. Obviously we won't be covering Distant Horizons because we have already touched upon that, but there are a lot more things to go over. Starting off with ambient sounds. As you can guess, this is a mod that adds a lot of ambience to the game. Blur Plus is a mod that recreates the blur effect that you get when you enter the main menu, but applies it to pretty much every GUI in the game. Whether you're opening your chest, an inventory, a crafting table, and personally I just really like. Camera Overhaul is another fun one, where it adds a build of tilt and sway to your camera as you move. It makes moving around feel a lot more modern and not quite as stiff as it has in the past. Cave Dust adds a simple particle in caves the deeper you go down. This is mostly a small change, but it does help cave exploration and will become far more pronounced when the server updates past caves and cliffs. Custom player models is certainly not for everyone, but it does allow you to customize your player character in a lot of different ways that can be seen by anyone running the mod. And even if you're not using it, it's nice to have to see other players' custom creations. Eating animation adds a very nice, satisfying animation to most consumables in the game, including food and potions. Entity Pincushions allows more arrows to be stuck into mobs, just like they can to players. It is a little bit hard to show this off because most of the mobs I could find died really quickly, but when you get into mobs with higher health bars, it becomes far more noticeable. Soon enough, they'll start looking like porcupines. Explosive Enhancement doesn't seem to be entirely working on the server right now, but changes the explosion animation to something a bit more satisfying. I wasn't really sure how to feel about this one, but after playing with it for a little while, I do actually really enjoy it. Falling Leaves expands upon the new ambient effect that has been added to trees, and also changes them to match each tree type. Lamb Dynamic Lights is a dynamic lights mod that's very similar to how dynamic lights worked in Optifine. You can hold items in your hands, drop them on the ground, and even certain mobs will glow up in the world. If you want to take a page out of a Doors book, try putting a torch on your head. It's great for mining. Let Sleeping Dogs Lie is an absolutely adorable mod by the famous creator Aichun. It lets dogs that have been sitting for long enough lay down, and there's many different poses as you can see, and personally, if you like having dogs, I highly recommend this one. Minecraft Capes expands upon the built-in cape system and allows you to put literally whatever you want on your back. Not only is it a free alternative to the old Optifine capes, it is far more customizable as you can have multiple resolution textures. You can put a goddamn HD image on the back of this thing if you want to. Personally, I'm running my banner with the moon logo put on top, and as you can guess, it can be seen to everybody else using the mod. Model Fix is something you want. It fixes these really awkward holes that appear in tools if you don't have it sometimes, and just go grab it. Just grab it. You'll never think about it again. You'll just be happy it's there. Particle Rain is an absolutely fun one that increases the quality of rain. It can make it run at an angle, which can vary depending on a number of factors, including what kind of storm type it is. It adds these particle effects on the ground, and it does work with shaders to an extent. I highly recommend picking it up, however you will need to edit a setting in order to get it working on the server. Particular is a mod that adds a lot of different particles into Minecraft. Whether it's flowing water creating a foamy bubble, a splash animation when you land inside water, fireflies in the forest. It does a lot of different little things that you'll really appreciate the more you play the game. Presence Footsteps adds a ton of different footstep sounds into the game. There are so many for all sorts of different blocks. I just went to my island filled with random hourly gifts and just walked over a bunch of them. Skin Layers 3D does exactly what it says on the tin, and makes it so the second layer of any skin is rendered in a 3D setting. It extrudes them inwards, creating a more solid look that, honestly, I just vastly prefer to the original. Sounds replaces a lot of sounds in the game, with different variations, often multiple for the same item. Whether or not you'll enjoy this is probably up to how much you prefer the vanilla soundscape, but I do think these sounds are very fun and are definitely worth giving a shot. Sound Physics Remastered is definitely a more difficult one to showcase, but it changes how sound is rendered in the world. It'll react differently depending on what blocks are around, and in caves it'll even reverb, creating this echoey effect. Visuality is another mod that adds different particles to the game, but in this case it's more focused on mobs. Skeletons will drop bones, slimes will leave chunks behind, and there's a couple other things hidden in here too. Lastly, Wavy Capes add some physics to the capes. This is compatible with the other cape mod we showcased, and even if you're not using that one, it adds a nice little flair to the otherwise really rigid capes on our back. Now the really fun section. We're moving on to quality of life / gameplay mods. First off, accurate block placement. This one seriously smooths out the placement system for blocks in the game. Things will flow a lot smoother and you won't have as many errors when moving around. Advanced Mods Next is pretty much the universal replacement for Tabby Chat, and unless you're a moderator you probably won't need this one, but it features the ability to create filters and a bunch of other things including tabs and viewing old chat logs. Auto HUD hides various parts of the hood and really only shows something when it's needed. There is a button to toggle this so you can display everything all at once, but personally I just think it's nice to run around without the UI on my screen all the time. Better Advancements is a carryover from 1.12 and showcases a lot more detail about the advancements in the game. Especially for those ones where you're not sure which pieces you're missing, it can be extremely helpful. Better F1 adds an alternate F1 in addition to the original that just hides the UI but still shows your hand and whatever you're holding. Now you just cycle through these 3 different F1s whenever you press the button. Command keys is a very simple replacement for the old macro keybind mod. It unfortunately does not have a lot of the functionality that one did, but in its absence it does allow for simply binding commands to keys, which means you can have your heals, jump tos, and whatever else floats your boat. Do a barrel roll is easily my favorite mod behind Distant Horizons. This one changes the camera animation and player animation whenever you're using an elytra to be far more like that of a drone or an actual aircraft. It does not change how you move at all, although it may feel like it just based on how smooth and different this is. Personally, I absolutely love this. I am never playing without it again. However, if you're prone to motion sickness, your mileage may vary. Also, the camera isn't as smooth as it could be, causing a little bit of jitter here and there, but I think it's tolerable, especially for just how goddamn fun it is. Inventory profiles next is pretty much the evolution of inventory tweaks from the 1.7 days. It adds in a lot of features, but mostly I use it for inventory sorting. There's a bunch of different buttons that can make you clean things up much faster than doing it manually. Litematica is the replacement and successor of Schematica. May it rest in peace. I have not spent a lot of time with this. I know it retains most of the same functionality. If you're going to be building things in Creative first, or designing them and then putting them on the server, this is a must-have. Mini-HUD is like a tiny, super customizable F3. However, if you're like me, one of its most important cases is its ability to estimate the server's TPS at any given time. Although it is not a perfect way to check the server's ticks per second, it can offer a lot of insight into just how well things are performing, and possibly why things might be lagging so badly. Beyond that, there's so many settings for different things you can turn on, whether it's a real-world clock, frame rate, biome, direction you're headed, whatever you can think of. Mouse Tweaks does a variety of things that improve the mouse when in GUI spaces. It adds a bunch of new keybinds for moving items around between containers, and overall just smooth things out. I highly recommend giving this a try. Notebook adds a portable book and quill directly into your GUI that you can take notes in-game. No more needing to open up a Google Doc on the side or a notepad file. Just type whatever you need here and it'll be saved. Shoulder Surfing Reborn is, as the name implies, a rebirth of the classic shoulder surfing mod. This was a mainstay back in my 1.7 and 1.12 days that adds a more proper third-person camera view. This is an additional to the original third-person views, and the camera is completely customizable in where it's positioned. Personally, I like moving it back a little bit and then lowering the FOV back to a normal level. Although we may have colored signs in 1.21.1, Stendhal is the replacement for color utility and many other things, including Ghostwriter, when it comes to books. You can now input various characters, all the different colors, save book copies as local files, and do so much more. One of the unfortunate things about MCO is it just never rains. For one reason or the other, except for when it's Christmas time, you will never see precipitation on the server. Weather Changer is something I've been wanting for a long time that lets you control the weather in a client-side fashion. Want it to rain, want it to snow, want it to thunderstorm, here you go. Type the command and just watch as the weather rolls in. Now we're getting into Zero's minimap. This is by far the best minimap mod out there. Although I used to use Journey Map way back in the day, in 1.12 I made the change to Zero's and I am never going back. Tying in with this is Zero's world map, which lets you zoom out so far that you can practically see the whole server, especially if you have a higher resolution monitor. One thing that is important is you make sure you turn off radars and cave mode when using this map, otherwise you will be violating the server's rules. But a very awesome thing is I've uploaded a massive 7GB file for download that includes the entire map files of Freedonia. If you download this and put it in this folder, you will be able to see the entire server. Last on the list, Zoomify. Whether or not you used it in Optifine, one of its most taken for granted features was the zoom. Zoomify is essentially just a pocket zoom, very much like the one in Optifine, however cranked up to 11. Not only can you zoom, but then you can use the scroll wheel to zoom even further into very distant things. This is fun with Distant Horizons, as although it does show the low quality of distant objects, it lets you see objects from very far away that you otherwise would not be able to identify. And that's it. That is every mod on my list. There are, of course, other ones to be included. There is a first-person body mod out there, although personally I was not a fan of it. There are some different resource packs that add different player animations and whatnot, although, again, I just wasn't the biggest fan. One last difficult thing, though, is no matter what I tried, the old MCO Pack is just not compatible with this version of Minecraft. However, Crafter Keegan, another moderator, has been working to port it over into a compatible format for 1.21.1. I've left a file in the description that, while it does not include everything in the current MCO pack, does include roughly about 80% of it, and I will update it as more is completed in the future. With all of this, not only will you be able to experience MCO in a way that just previously wasn't possible, you'll be completely ready the next time the server updates. It's funny because despite all of these wacky, crazy mods and cranked out settings, the game actually runs far better now than it did in the past for me on 1.12.2. And I think that's just a testament to how far the game and the modding scene around it has come. This is definitely how I'm going to be recording videos in the future, and quite possibly maybe how I'm primarily playing MCO in the future too. If you have any questions or want to contribute files to the Distant Horizons data pack that I'm going to be sharing in the description, please reach out. I went through a lot curating this mod list, and so far I've had no issues with any of these mods as far as compatibility or issues go. But please, if you discover anything, let me know, and I will leave a pinned comment with any addendums to this video. I hope you guys have an absolutely wonderful time, and all of this has made Freedonia feel so special and new in a way that I haven't felt since the first time I put on Elytra and was able to fly around the map. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you guys have a great time, and until next time, peace out.